That's the beginning of making home ownership more affordable here in Wisconsin. There's a bunch of other stuff. So we're going to announce a red tape reset here at some point. If you look at Virginia under Governor Youngkin, they did a red tape reset. They reduced regulations by 25%. They reduced the
Wow.
cost of building a new home by $24,000. We need to do the same thing in Wisconsin. We are a highly regulated state, and we need to do a much better job and the duplication of regulations, those type of things.
What do you got for me? Yeah, what do you got for me? Baby, would you stand and fight?
Mr. Tom Tiffany, I should say Congressman Tom Tiffany, candidate for Wisconsin governor. Welcome back to the Speakeasy conversation. Before we get into our conversation, though, I want to do a quick little commercial to all of those out there listening and watching this podcast. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. It means so much to know that you're out there listening. And if you could do me a big favor, hit that like button, hit that follow button, do all the things to spread the word about this podcast. Send it out via email and put it on social media. We don't have an advertising budget over here in the Speakeasy, so all the little things that you can do to help spread the word, we really appreciate it. All right, Congressman Tiffany, thanks for your patience there. We had a little bit of a commercial to do, but I know, like I said, when we were just off air, big news over the last couple of weeks. You earned the endorsement from President Trump, and then also Josh Schoeman has stepped out of the primary race. How does this change the dynamics of the campaign now?
By the way, I would urge all those people out there, hit that like button. Also, we got to get the Cooley conservative message throughout Cooley country, right?
Right on. Thank you.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So, very grateful for the president's endorsement and his confidence in me that I can bring home the governorship here in Wisconsin. It's so critical that we win this governorship. We see what's happening to our state. But the day after the endorsement, Josh Schoeman contacted me and said that he was going to suspend his campaign, and so we basically have the field cleared at this point. And it doesn't mean that somebody else couldn't come out of the woodwork, but I think it's probably not likely at this point, Chris, especially with the president's endorsement. And we've built such a strong campaign.
Yeah.
I refer to it as the end of the beginning of the campaign, where we really built, and, people around the state, some did not know who I was. And we've really been able to build that name ID and identity, and so grateful for the support that we have received. And I got to tell you, we could not have scripted it much differently or much better for the first 4 to 5 months here. And then to have that culminated with the president's endorsement, and really being able to focus on that general election, because it's critical that that we win this election here in 2026. I mean, we've got a state Supreme Court that's really out of control, almost lawless at times. And the Democrats are riding high at this point. They think this is going to be their year to do what they did in Minnesota a few years ago, which is take over all three legislative branches of government in terms of legislating. When you have the two houses, plus you get the governor's signature, those three things, they believe that they're going to be able to get this year in Wisconsin. I disagree with them. I think that we have a grand opportunity here in 2026, especially after the failures of the Evers administration and Democrats in general in the executive branch.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that too, because, just in our backyard here, we've got Minnesota just across the river, and it is, the way Mike Hips puts it, a dumpster fire over there right now. And I like the way you put that. I mean, this is a consequence of electing Democrats into power in the state of Minnesota. We do not want to see that happen in this beautiful state of Wisconsin. So thank you for saying that. I think that's why everybody knows this is such an important election. And one other thing that, regarding Josh Schoeman dropping out of the race, the idea, what is the likelihood of you and Josh being on stage together at the state convention in May to help make sure that everyone understands how important it is that we unite and win this in the fall?
Well, I think Josh knows how important it is here to be able to be successful. When we talked the day after the president's endorsement, he recognizes that we have to win Wisconsin. I mean, and he had a great message for the people of Wisconsin. There's two things that come to mind for me. He said, we have to reclaim Wisconsin. He's absolutely right in regards to that. The other thing is, let's have people that are living here in Wisconsin, not being from Wisconsin. He really emphasized that we see too many people, especially young people with a brain drain, that are leaving Wisconsin and they're from Wisconsin rather than living in Wisconsin. We want them back here. Public policy makes a difference coming out of Madison, and we're going to highlight the differences between them and us and how we can bring prosperity and make Wisconsin one of the great states here in America, one of the dynamic states in America.
Yeah, well said. And I saw the other day you were talking about on day one, you will put an end to the 400-year property tax increase that the Democrats have put in place. God bless you for saying that out loud, because as a county board candidate here in La Crosse County, when I go door to door and talk to voters, property taxes is the number one thing that everyone is talking about. So, I mean, these property taxes, we got to get control of them. What other things can be done to help get control over property taxes?
Yeah, so I mean, what our plan is, so we saw a 30-year high for property taxes in Wisconsin in those December property tax bills, largest increase in 30 years, and that needs to end. So first of all, you reduce property taxes by ending the 400-year property tax increase. I mean, think about it. Our country is celebrating its 250th anniversary this year. This is nearly double that you get to pay higher property taxes. Talk about death and taxes. And
Right.
so let's reduce taxes by ending the 400-year property tax increase, and then let's freeze them so people can have affordable. I mean, it's a big part of the affordability question. In order to be able to afford a home, you got to be able to afford the property taxes that you're paying. And so if we can do that, that's the beginning of making home ownership more affordable here in Wisconsin. There's a bunch of other stuff. So we're going to announce a red tape reset here at some point. If you look at Virginia under Governor Youngkin, they did a red tape reset. They reduced regulations by 25%. They reduced the
Wow.
cost of building a new home by $24,000. We need to do the same thing in Wisconsin. We are a highly regulated state, and we need to do a much better job, and the duplication of regulations, those type of things. We can make things more affordable by doing that. We are now among the bottom 10 states to start a new business. That goes back to that affordability question. We need to deal with that. Energy costs. We used to be among the lowest in the in the upper Midwest. We are now among the highest. We got to stop closing base load power plants, and we need to build more base load generation and stop the destruction of this beautiful farmland that we have that's being converted into intermittent sources of power like wind and solar that are leading to higher utility rates here in Wisconsin. I mean, remember, under the Evers administration, with both Mandela Barnes and Sarah Rodriguez as the lieutenant governors to Governor Evers, their Public Service Commission has rubber stamped over $2 billion in utility rate increases. That's why we're seeing these increased costs on people's utility bills.
Well, isn't it really, like you're saying, just a supply and demand kind of equation? If we had more energy, like reliable energy producers, then we would be able to lower those costs and they'd spread out better. But, I'm glad you mentioned that too, because it reminds me what is it term? Modular nuclear reactors, I think was the term that Ryan Hipps used once in talking about some of the possibilities that are out there these days. What would it take to reduce or not necessarily reduce regulation, but at least streamline regulation to get some of these nuclear reactors up and running quicker? Because that, I think, is the future. I remember, in the 80s when we saw movies like Back to the Future and they had the little Mr. Fusion nuclear reactor powering the car. And I thought, someday in my lifetime, I want to see something cool like that, where you could power something with just a small little nuclear reactor. And these things are safe as they can be. So what would it take to really start ramping up more of that kind of energy production.
So think about it. We have small modular reactors in effect being used throughout the federal government. It's our nuclear submarines.
Great
And
point.
they have small nuclear reactors that are powering that submarine. They've been doing it safely for a long time. We should be doing the same thing. So I just think in terms of energy generally, first of all, stop closing down baseload power here in Wisconsin. We got to keep all that we can get. Let's stop the destruction of beautiful farmland, converting it into wind and solar that's on at best 25% of the time. That's led to higher costs for our utility prices. And then embrace nuclear once again. And small reactors should be part of that mix because they are proving to be safe. And I'd say the biggest impediment at this point is federally, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. They are uh, they really drag out things in terms of it takes a long time to get permits. And I think we need to eliminate some of that duplication.
There you go.
We need to have good regulatory practices. But when there's duplication, let's eliminate that and
Yeah.
allow them to be able to move through those processes in a more expeditious fashion.
Oh, that makes total sense. There's definitely smarter ways of doing it. But to your point, the regulations are there to make sure that we have good safety measures and everything in place. So I agree with you. If we can remove the duplication, that's a really good point.
And
Find the
so
duplicative efforts and get rid of that.
yeah, and that's true in all types of different things in terms of the regulatory burden that we have in Wisconsin. But we've had nuclear plants in Wisconsin. We've operated them safely. There's no
Yep.
reason we can't do that. There's still the one operating at Point Beach near Manitowoc. Kewaunee was closed a number of years ago. I know that there's companies that are taking a look at Kewaunee possibly reopening it. That would be a good thing. But I think those SMRs, the small modular reactors, are something we should take a good look at. And by the way, we here in Wisconsin, we've got some great minds that know a lot about nuclear, including right in your backyard. The CEO of Dairyland Power has extensive experience working with nuclear plants. Miss America from Wausau in my district has a nuclear engineering degree from UW-Madison, living
Nice.
out on the East Coast now. We need to bring her back home and help us build affordable, reliable energy that is going to be low cost, because I hear from people frequently, especially manufacturers, our electricity rates are really quite high. And it's one of the things that can discourage them from staying in Wisconsin or
Hmm.
expanding in Wisconsin.
Well said, sir. Well, and we've only got a couple minutes left. One thing that I definitely wanted to bring up with you, your work in Washington, D.C. Thank you for all the efforts that you're doing out there. One thing that's top of my mind is H.R. 38, the Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act. And I saw recently it was placed on the union calendar. Now, can you tell me, what does the union calendar mean? And when might we see that Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act come up for a vote?
Forgive me, I am not familiar with the union calendar, but I will find out what it is. But I think the point is that there should be reciprocity across the country. I mean, this is a right given to us. It is a fundamental right that we have in our Constitution. I don't think a state, just because you cross state lines, that you should be denied the ability to exercise that right. So that right should exist across all 50 states. And I certainly support reciprocity.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. I was telling a friend the other day, it just makes no sense at all. I'm legally licensed to conceal carry here in Wisconsin, but the moment I step into Illinois, all of a sudden I become a felon. It makes absolutely no sense.
And of
So
course,
thank you for supporting that.
they have no crime in Illinois, do they, as a result, denying people their Second Amendment rights?
Yeah, it's madness. It really is. When you really get down into the logic and the policy of it, it just makes no sense at all. So thank you for supporting that. But yeah, if you could let me know, like the when that might expect to come to a vote, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, be happy to do that. And since you bring up the federal issues, One thing that's not being talked about, and the Democrats are, they're talking about Epstein and they're talking about Minneapolis and stuff like that. They're focused on that. And there's good reason that they're doing that at this point, because there's good news that has been coming down here over the last couple months. While we still got a ways to go on inflation, we're beginning to see inflation wane, inflation coming down. Interest rates have come down some, will come down more once the president gets his nominee to the Federal Reserve. We're seeing energy prices come down. Up where I live here in the Northwoods, we've seen gas prices down in the 230s. And so that's all really good news for the economy, for the people of America, and for Wisconsin. The murder rate is down 20% in the last year. It is a stunning statistic. I don't think the country has ever seen a decline like this, so that we're having safer streets in America. I mean, what more fundamental thing can you do
Right on.
in making sure that there is safe streets? So there's really some good news that has been coming out that gets um, shunted aside by the mainstream media. But I hope people are watching that. And when people, especially people that are tipped, get overtime, or you get Social Security, you're going to see more money in your returns here in the early part of 2026, putting more money in people's pockets as a result of no taxes on tips, overtime, or Social Security. So I think there's some good stuff happening, and we're at the leading edge of what could be a really strong economy in 2026. And by the way, one other note, the Atlanta Federal Reserve is echoing that. They're saying for, I think it was the final quarter of 2025, they measured growth rates at 5% plus, which
Wow.
that's really strong growth.
Yeah, that's terrific. And I'm glad you brought up the no tax on tips, because you're 100% right. That is a big issue, especially when you go. I mean, I love restaurants here with supper clubs and everything in Wisconsin. That's one of our best things, right? And that's a big deal for a lot of these young people who are maybe just getting started, or even some single moms who are trying to put food on the table for their kids. No tax on tips means they can do even more with that money. So thank you for that. And one other thing too that speaking of what the things that are going on in Washington, this SAVE Act, thank you for getting that through the House. What's the next step? And obviously the Senate has to go through it, but what's the likelihood that they're going to be able to take up that SAVE Act and get that passed for election integrity?
Yeah, Senator Thune's going to have to make a decision, as well as a couple of the other Republicans in the Senate. Are they going to use cloture, getting to 60 votes, the filibuster, or are they going to make the Democrats actually have to filibuster? Not just say, yeah, we're filibustering and therefore there's not going to be a vote on this. Are they going to make them filibuster it? Make them talk for 20, 40, 60 hours, however long they want to take, to deny this to be able to come to a vote. Senator Thune's got a big decision to make there in that regard. I hope that they're able to get it passed, because it is a 70% issue. People across the board say, yeah, it only makes sense that you check someone that they are here legally in the United States in order to be able to vote. And then the second thing is that you have photo ID. I'll never forget, Chris, when I was in the legislature a little over a decade ago, we passed voter ID in Wisconsin. The sky was going to fall. We were racist,
Right.
all the rest. None of that happened. In fact, voter turnout went up after photo ID was implemented. So it's simply Democrats playing political games and saying, and for whatever reason, not wanting to have the highest election integrity possible.
Yeah, right on. Well, I know we're at time, sir. Thank you so much for your time here today. How can people reach out if they want to contact you in the campaign?
Yeah, TomTiffany.com. Real simple. Just look us up and don't hesitate to contact us. And if you want to check us out on social media at Tom Tiffany WI for Wisconsin, check us out there. We've got a dynamic social media, and you can see all the stuff that's going on. And it's been terrific the last few months. with all the craziness you see from the Democrats. I mean, you've got a Department of Public Instruction, 200 sexual misconduct cases. We called that to attention. It's gotten much broader attention as a result. We just saw the drag shows that they're going to have at Madison East High School, a drag show at a high school. And guess what? They called for, you have to have photo ID to be able to get in. You have to have photo ID to be able to go to a drag show, but not to vote in Madison. Isn't that emblematic of the craziness that happens down there sometimes? So we really highlight some of the just the really extreme stuff that Democrats stand for at this point. And it's been terrific, and we're going to continue to campaign every day to bring back the governorship here in Wisconsin and have real leadership that is going to make Wisconsin one of the great states in America.
Hi, thanks for checking out this episode. If you like this content, then please visit cooleyconservatives.com and click the Buy Me a Coffee option to leave us a tip. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Truth Social. Oh, and you can get our content in your email inbox once a week by subscribing at cooleyconservatives.com. Thanks again. Take care and God bless.
I want you